My name is Rick Johnson, and I've lived at 711 North 13th Street since 1989. I would like to remind this commission that after the development was done on the new subdivision of Northtown Park, right north in this area, the water retention berm failed. And all those neighbors downstream, which is towards Jackson Street, they all had major damage and flooded basements after that. The affected neighbors for that had raised concerns prior to the development being built like we are tonight. But I must add that the proposed developer of the current parcel on 14th Street is not the same builder that built Northtown Park. But I think the water concerns are still valid. I think any man-made water retention can fail. Those of us down closer on the hill, close to the tennis courts and the girls' softball field, we already have major water runoff. And it's like a river in my backyard when it rains. It's major, flooding major. And I just think the development would only add to problems that we already have now. And I would highly encourage this request not be granted. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. My name is Chris Webster. I live at 800 North 13th Street. And I want to thank all of you for your service. I'm sure you don't do this for the money or the prestige, but I really want you to all take a look in your heart about the development of Ozark. Do we want to become just a bedroom community for Springfield, for people just to move in? The heart of our community are homeowners. They're the ones who are vested. I've lived here 30 years. We've got great neighbors in our neighborhood who are vested in Ozark, take pride in home ownership. And to stack up high density, to go from an R1 to an R4 is a huge change in the middle of single family homes. It doesn't make sense. It's not a good fit for Ozark, and it's going to affect everyone in Ozark. That traffic is going to dump out on 14, where we already have heavy traffic with kids trying to get into school in the morning. It's a bad fit for Ozark, and it's certainly a bad fit for our community and our neighborhood. Thank you. Thank you.
I wasn't planning on doing this. My name is Evelyn Sparks. I live at 1405 West Parkview. Forgive me, I just had surgery. We moved here. There was only 2 houses, and you guys okayed, thankfully, to put single family because they wouldn't put multifamily on Parkview. That would have destroyed the neighborhood. Thankfully, you guys thought what all these people said. We have a strong community. We wanted to grow. But you have apartments, you have people in and out, transit. That's not what we want for Ozark. We want this Ozark city to be strong, a strong community with strong faith, strong friends, strong neighborhoods. I wouldn't have the neighbors I have now if you guys wouldn't have made a choice you did before. They're good. They want to be here. They want to be part of Ozark. The street's not wide enough, like you've heard. Water issues. We don't have much water pressure now. When they built the high school, one of the city men told us we'd be hooked into it, so we'd have more water pressure. Well, we weren't. But if they build apartment complexes, not only is it going to cause, I'm afraid, more crime, because we actually had that when our street was opened up. It's going to hurt its water value. It's going to hurt its traffic. People could get hurt, kids walking. Our high school jogs up and down that street. They're going to get hit. I mean, there's so much traffic, it already scares me. Like I said, I didn't plan on coming up here. I just wanted you to hear from my heart how I feel about the city. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Mark Miller. Wife Amanda's here with me. We live at 1251 North 14th Street on Ozark and here in town. I honestly can't say it better than some of these other folks have already said it. You know, as soon as I walked in this room, it's been a few years that I've been in here. And my thing was like, there's no high-rise apartment buildings in this mural behind us, which is what this town was founded on. So my biggest concerns, we've raised my daughters, they're now in college. You know, great neighborhood. We moved into it primarily because of we looked for houses for 6 months before we moved over here from Battlefield to facilitate traffic and stuff. I know, I'm sure there's a study going on or going to be. You would have to widen 14th Street. If you have to widen 14th Street, you're going to completely destroy the look of that street in general and why most of us moved up there. In the 17 years we've lived there, have trees that sit about 3 or 4 foot into the ground, into our yard. I've had 4 people hit our trees in the years that we've lived here. A couple of them totaled their vehicle because they weren't paying attention, going too fast. The road is too narrow. Okay. I don't want the road widened. I don't want to see a whole bunch of new traffic coming through there. Where traffic is going to have to come up Parkview, where this new proposed subdivision would bring exponentially increased traffic flow through our neighborhood. For the safety of the kids that are there now and the people who walk, it's just not good. But that's up to you. But please reconsider this and keeping it R1 and not the high density housing, because it will not benefit our neighborhood at all whatsoever. It'll also destroy the natural beauty of what you could see from Jackson Street looking over onto out across over towards the tennis courts and everything else. And we stick high-rise structures. I know the R1 can't change. Single family homes are different because you've got ownership, you've got accountability. Rental properties, you do not. And that's just of great concern to me and our community and neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Jim Price. I live at 1199 North 14th Street. First, I want to thank you for the opportunity for letting us voice our concerns this evening. As you can see, our entire community kind of turned out and they're very concerned about this rezoning issue. My neighbors have already spoken about how the application for rezoning does not seem to conform to the city's comprehensive plan and is likely to create an increased danger for pedestrians in a neighborhood with narrow streets and no sidewalks. They've talked about the potential for a significant loss of privacy, fear of water runoff, and reduction of green space that is vital to our collective health. A large development on the proposed location will also contribute to significant noise and light pollution. It will diminish our quality of life. While we all feel strongly that a landowner has the freedom to use the land how they see fit, we also believe that all the people in the surrounding area have the freedom to pursue happiness and feel safe in their community. We've heard the development plan and we are still concerned. We cannot help see the enormous apartment buildings being built on 20th Street as we drive down I-65 and shudder to think that that could happen in our neighborhood. If the plan is truly to build townhomes, why didn't the developer apply to rezone the parcel to R3? If the application for R4 is approved, the genie is out of the bottle and we can't put it back in. If issues arise that stymie the developer's ability to build townhomes, and R4 zoning leaves it open the possibility for a different developer to come in and build substantially much more than was discussed tonight. I've spoken to about 60 families in Ozark Heights, a neighborhood that abuts the large apartment complex being built on 20th Street. They shared with me that they were originally told, don't worry, we're just going to build a few townhomes. Very soon, some of them will have a significant loss of privacy and all will be affected by increased traffic on a road that does not currently support it. We respectfully ask you not to recommend the application for high density housing for approval to the Board of Aldermen. We ask you retain the current zoning of RC1 or R1C, and we ask the owner to consider building single family houses or duplexes instead. R1C zoning is congruent with the rest of the neighborhood and follows the character of the neighborhood and is not consistent with the current comprehensive plan. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else that would like to speak as well? Yes, sir.
My name is Jonathan Stone. I live at 2225 North 20th Street in the 93-year-old farmhouse just in front of those new apartments. We fought it, still went through. It's ruined the aesthetics of our farmhouse. I talked with a planning and zoning friend from Nashville over the weekend. He said that the ADT, the average daily trips per residence is 4. In my apartment complex, that's 768 vehicles a day on that street. How can either end of those streets with the lights handle that? And now you're talking about putting it over near the Ozark, across from the Ozark Baptist Church. It's the eyesore of my house has the eyesore of Ozark right now. It's the albatross of apartments. It's impacted even my septic tank in their building. They've built up 6 foot on the whole property, no concern about runoff like these other people are concerned. I come here as a courtesy to implore you to think hard about what you're wanting to do here and what you're wanting to build. I agree with everything that's been said. This is a community of single people, single structures of homeowners, and we want to keep it that way. This is ridiculous, this plan for multifamily and high density. It's ridiculous. You know, who stands to profit from this? It's not about progress, it's about profit. And I don't appreciate it. And I respect all of you, but I respect you to make the right decision in this situation. Thank you.
Anyone else like to speak towards this amendment? Yes.
Ethan Swick. Am I coming through okay?
Yeah.
Ethan Swick, I live at 805 North 13th Street. Just a little bit about me. My wife and I, we moved to Ozark in 2021. Thanks to some affordable rental housing that we were able to eventually buy our house in April 2023, where we now live, at my address. I kind of wear 2 hats in this community, both as a resident and as a member of as a staff member of the Economic Development Organization for Christian County. And so there are some, I hate to kind of go against the grain, but there are some concerns that I have, but also some supports that I have for this project. And I guess I would first say one thing, my first, kind of the real meat of this really is that I see a lot of people talking about that this development or this rezoning could lead to a development that would have some drastic ramifications for property values. And as an economic developer and just a person kind of interested in this topic, I did a little bit of research, or a decent amount of research. And for one thing, what I found really interesting was that across the board, a lot of different studies are reporting that there really is no real concrete evidence that affordable housing developments, urban multifamily, negatively affect nearby property values. And I guess if I were to preface that with saying first that we don't really know specifically what this,
Hey,
we don't really know what this specific development is going to be, if it will be.
I would ask for everyone to be respectful to him, just like everyone has been respectful to one that has spoke, please. Thank you.
Thanks. There really is no, we don't really know specifically what this could be. I mean, we know that the property owner has said that it's going to be townhomes, but as some other points have been made that I support, say that some other people have said that it could be something completely different if it changes property or ownership. But I guess really what I want to point out though is that a few key statistics. Alexandria, Virginia, it's about the same size as Springfield. They found a 0.9% increase in nearby property values after affordable housing was constructed. Trulia, the real estate website, they found that in Denver, after there was some affordable housing made, there was an average of $7 per square foot increase in property value. National Association of Realtors, they see the same thing. They even saw an upwards of 1.6% increase in value. Literature review by the Urban Studies Program at San Francisco State University reported the same thing. No negative effect on affordable housing, no negative effect of affordable housing on nearby property values. The Center for Housing Policy, same thing. They actually reviewed 4 literature reviews. Each of those literature reviews had at least 15 individual studies going into it. So that's a massive amount of data. The person that spoke ahead of me has a very specific and a very unique position, and I think it's completely it is ridiculous, it's unfortunate, but it's also contextually very different from our development here, or what could be. I've seen a lot of other points being made. No one has really talked about the stresses of public safety tonight, but that was something that I saw quite a bit, that this rezoning could cause some stresses on public safety. There's some other data that I could provide that says that affordable housing developments don't really result in any higher crime rates over a long period of time. There's a lot of other factors that go into that. But really, I guess I want to present more so my concerns on this is that, one, we don't really know specifically what this project could be. It seems a little bit nebulous, and we're talking specifically about rezoning, and so it could be it could be apartments, it could be townhomes. I personally would be more hesitant to support lavishly expensive housing, big apartments. I don't really like that idea. I will be more supportive of affordable housing, which is defined as 30% of the occupant's income. I also have questions on who this developer is. Melissa Burke, who's the property owner, she identified on Facebook that Keith Neal is the developer, and just kind of doing my own kind of background research, I didn't really find a whole lot of information on this person. But I really want to stress that a poorly constructed high density development really has a potential to harm occupants and nearby residents. And that with this development being located on a hill, and an unconscientious developer may be willing to kind of look the other way on a problem of runoff. We want to make sure that if this development does go through, with the rezoning being the first step, that this developer works with reputable contractors, and so that we can avoid utility outages and construction runoff and other problems. Another concern that I have is that how will the traffic on 14th Street be addressed by the commission? I think it's a good start to see that in the meeting packet for tonight, that there will be a transportation impact study kind of as a starting point. But if we're going to do this
Sir.
right, yes.
Okay, your 5 minutes, but can you find your stopping? I don't want to stop you.
Yeah.
Find a stop.
I'll wrap it up. Sorry, I know I had a lot, and I want to be able to
Thank you.
make sure I communicate everything. But really, what I see just from looking at the comprehensive plan is that there is a little bit of a gray area. And residential goals is that we have listed 2 objectives in our comprehensive plan. One is to diversify housing, and the other is to promote affordable housing. And I think with that action step under objective 2 being attract development in the form of condominium, townhouses, duplexes, low density apartments, those are the types of things that I would be willing to support. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else? We would like everyone to speak that wants to. We won't turn anyone away, of course. Seeing no movement, I'll go ahead and close the public portion of this meeting and open it up to the commission for questions, comments, anything that they may have. And as a reminder, this is more for the commission than anything. I meant to mention it prior to the first vote. Per rule of order, I guess, when we make a motion to accept an amendment, we will always do it in the affirmative. And then the vote of each commissioner will either pass or fail the item in question. Okay, does everybody understand what I'm saying? Okay, just make it easier where we can understand the vote better. Okay, I've said what I need to say. Go ahead, Hadley.
Hey, so to the commission, you know what I do. I've made it no secret that I'm a teacher. This is, I mean, I'm at the OIC, I'm at the high school, I was at the junior high for 5 years, and basically like, this is my home away from home, this area. So whereas I don't live there and I understand it's different for the people that live there, I see, when I go to the OC after school, I see kids walking. I know we have that tunnel underneath, but they still kind of come by the softball field and the tennis thing. I see the Raiders running, I see the cross-country team running, I see the track students running, and I mean, you know, it's a pretty safe area. I've been walked with my own class from the high school. We've gone down to Sonic. We try to do different incentive things. So that's one piece. The second piece is with the way that high school is set up now, where we have the OIC building over here and the high school there. Between 9 and 9:15 roughly, it's a mess, that area. Before we put an apartment complex in. 11:15 to 11:30, it's a mess. Kids going back and forth. Again, that time, 1 to 1:15 roughly, when kids are going back and forth, it's a mess. And then the end of the day is a nightmare. I mean, you know, it takes me 20 minutes longer to kind of coming down there. And that is what it is. And there's pieces with the roads and things like that, but that's without an apartment complex there. I think you mentioned, sir, you said like, you know, 7,000 or something more cars. I mean, there's going to be cars at this time frame. You know, I think we kind of mentioned this, but I just kind of feel like in this area with the school there, you know, I worry as a parent, you know, and obviously my daughter's younger, but there's tons of softball girls that are there sometimes before the coach is there for practice. For tennis, the girls' tennis team right now has 51 girls that are there. And yes, that could happen anywhere with a house, but I just kind of feel like that area with the school there, we don't need all that extra traffic. I just kind of feel like, yes, there's some issues. I know we have the transportation thing, but when we look at some things that are going and just not there, I mean, it's just going to add so much more of that headache. I mean, when we think about some of our most susceptible drivers, there are 16-year-olds, 17-year-olds, 18-year-olds, and all these kids are going there. The kids are going to OTC. I mean, it's why put additional traffic demand on that area, you know, I mean, so just, you know, I know we know each other very well, but like, this is kind of, you know, my home away from home, and just, I think that, you know, single family, yes, there's some thesis, but I just feel like this is just going to put even a bigger crunch on an area that's already, especially at certain times, a bad spot.
Thank you. Anyone else? The floor is open to the commission. Yes, sir. Chad?
I'm not sure where to start. I guess I got a question for staff to start with. Can you remind the commission on the differences between R4 and R3 as far as maximum density, maximum number of floors, that sort of thing?
There's not necessarily a maximum floor. It's based on the design for the building code for R4. And then if you get a certain height, you got to set back from the property. But as far as density, R4 is basically anything over 8 units in one building. So that traditionally is like an apartment structure. R3 is up to 8 units in a building. Depending on how it's designed, if it's more than 4 units, it may need to be a sprinkle building, but if it's less than 4, it could be a non-sprinkle with firewall. R3 also accommodates 2-family, which are like a typical duplex. So an R3 zoning would allow for R2 and up to 8 units in a building. R4 would accommodate the R3 scenario and the R4 higher than 8 units per building.
Okay. And how many buildings could be placed on this 14.35 acre?
It honestly, it would depend on the maximum density of the size of the lot and how they can design to fit this, and taking into account the topography, the stormwater utilities. Without having a design of that, I couldn't tell you the exact number they could fit on there.
Okay. I guess this maybe it's staff or commission. To anyone's knowledge, has anyone talked to the school district about the proposed development? And what their
No, but
thoughts
the
were?
school district would have received the public mailing that would have gone out because they own property neighboring this parcel.
With the developer at least suggesting that he's looking at 5-plex townhomes, what would the appropriate zoning typically be for that? Is it
That would be
R4?
the R3 would accommodate that. That would be the, I'm not going to say that's the appropriate zoning, but that's the ideal zoning that notes the townhome style up to 8 units. But again, R4 accommodates those as well.
I guess just some of my comments, one of my concerns With the traffic impact study coming after the rezoning, if the results of that study are such that require significant infrastructure improvements, even stormwater improvements, water, you mentioned low water pressure, stormwater, that sort of stuff. If the property is rezoned and after all these studies are completed, it becomes financially undoable for this developer. I guess the zoning would already be in place for another developer to come in, and so, and then what would that proposal be? Not having any knowledge of what that may be. I guess that's really my concern. Just one last thing. If the study showed improvements to 14th Street, would the developer be required to build those? Or the city required to build them, or who?
Yeah, the city wouldn't be required. 14th Street is owned and maintained by the Ozark Special Road District. They're also, they have been involved with keeping track of this application. They know it's a zoning at this time, so the zoning, there's no design documents at this point. But once it comes into design, they'll issue a traffic impact study where they'll review as well. I can't answer as far as who would pay for that, but it would be generally most of that's the burden of the developer, but it'd be between them and Ozark Special Road District. The city would own and maintain any internal streets of this development. Generally what we see with the R4, R3, a lot of those become private because they don't subdivide each parcel for each building.
Okay. Last question, Cameron. Thank you. Would this development require sidewalks along 14th Street?
Yes, per city ordinance, all developments require sidewalks along all road fringes. So they would be required to construct those. Again, because of this being Ozark Special Road District, what we have seen on other projects is they don't necessarily want those in the right of way. So they'll grant or will require them to dedicate an easement on private property to build those sidewalks. But I do also want to add that there is a stipulation in the city ordinance for a possible sidewalk buyout, depending on the condition of the existing site, what's going on there. There's some trigger criteria that would accommodate that to be considered.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chad. Anyone else? Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
I have question, Cameron, in the section underwater. The very end, it talks about during the construction plan review process, staff will evaluate the engineered drawings to ensure the property has adequate water service and fire flows. All construction plans will be reviewed to ensure compliance. Who exactly is reviewing those? Is that Public Works? Is that an outside engineer? How do you guys handle that?
It's both, and this part of the staff report is provided by Public Works.
Okay.
Public Works will do the internal evaluation of the design of the water system, along with our third-party review engineer that facilitate and assist with that. And then depending on the quantity of linear footage of pipe, sometimes that'll go to DNR as well for review.
Right.
But yes, that is internally reviewed by staff and our third-party engineer.
Okay. I'd like to ask a question of the representative. Appropriate time.
Yes, come forward, please, sir.
Does your company have any comment on? I have an assumption, but do you have any comment on why this was entered as R4?
It's because in order for us to know exactly what we can fit in there, we need to rezone to R4 before we dump $100,000 into architects and engineers.
Right.
And so before us for the investment and everything, that's why.
And do you have any preliminary work from a civil engineer of what is possible?
Not to my knowledge at the moment. We're talking this one right now, but we don't have a whole setup and drawing architect of the plot yet. So we just have one building design.
Right.
Of what the building will look like.
And how much square footage would that footprint be?
So each unit is roughly 1,800 square feet. So 5 times 1,800 square foot. What?
Okay.
So.
And that's exterior square foot, corner to corner?
Yep. That includes the garage, living space, everything. So.
Okay. That's all the questions I have.
Just a second, Chad, don't leave just yet. Megan, did you need something? I saw you raise your hand.
I think the applicant was indicating appropriation and stuff.
The applicant, what? I'm sorry.
Site plan.
We submitted one piece of paper with the
You want to, sir?
Sir,
Oh, he's coming back. He's got a question for you.
I don't know if we submitted this other picture.
You have to submit that, give it, Cameron, look at it first, since it's a new document. We can.
Roughly for what we are considering.
Did you hand one over there?
That's the only one I've got with you right now.
Can you, okay,
We hadn't received that as far as
have not seen that? Okay,
which. Yeah, I think it's still consumer cycle.
Chad, if you want to go ahead and ask a question.
thank
Go
you.
ahead.
I have a few questions. So you're proposing 5 units in each building and initially 6 buildings.
Yes,
I assume they'll all be rentals.
yes.
What about future plans for the rest of the property?
We'd like, future plans is, we're trying to keep the townhomes to the south of the property. And then future, the front half of that be divided up into lots for houses.
So you mentioned previously that you were requesting the R4 zoning to make sure you had that zoning in place. So as you started to spend money in design and so forth, you had the zoning you needed. So is it safe to say, as you further run the numbers, that this proposal could change from fiveplex townhomes to something more intense?
It could, depending on how the math and numbers all work out, those could possibly go up to 8 plexes.
Okay.
So we could accommodate, so the numbers work for the bank and everything. So.
Thank you.
Floor is still open. You can have a seat. We'll holler at you if we need more. Thank you.
Cameron, I have
Yes,
another
Adam.
question. As far as the descriptions of the different zoning regions, I just want to make sure accurate as possible. The minimum lot area per family means per unit.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just want to clarify.
That 20,000 square feet that you're looking at.
Yeah,
Yeah, so 20,000 square foot lot per unit,
right.
kind of give you a calculation.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any other questions from the commission, comments? Yes, Chad?
I guess I'm just gonna add to what Hadley said earlier. I get, for me, there's just, I have a lot of concerns. I have concerns with the traffic. I don't think they'll be as significant as what some may have stated this evening, but also have concerns about the water pressure, fire response, sprinkler systems, concerns and impacts to the school district. You know, what sort of stress may this put on the school district with, and don't get me wrong, we have a need in the region for affordable housing, multifamily housing. I mean, there's a large population that we need to figure out a way to address that. I'm not sure this is the appropriate place to do that. And I guess with the unknowns and the development may change, you know, maybe something I would be more comfortable with would be a plan development that was specifically defined, the site plan that would have to be held to. But right now, with the way this is presented, I can't support it. So
Hey, Mr. Chairman,
I'm sorry, yes,
Can I make a clarification of what I just answered to Mr. Brown?
sure.
So we just happen to have the ordinance here in front of us. I was incorrect on the 20,000. It's 2,000 per unit and 20,000 total for the minimum lot size. So I was incorrect there. Oh, I can't get it to, let me get this to scroll so you guys can see this.
And follow up with that, Cameron, does that include? That doesn't include the footprint of the building, that include like footprint of the development?
The acreage of land, yes.
Right.
So again, R4 is 2,000 square foot of land per unit or a minimum of 20,000 square foot lot to develop.
You good? Is that
Yeah.
clear? Okay,
I would just like to make public comment of we need developers who want to develop this type of housing in Ozark. Obviously, the type of housing has to go on a piece of land. And every developer out there is looking for the right piece of land to put this housing up. And trying to find that, I would just make an encouragement to the public that, you know, this housing is a need in the area. And I think there's a great way for developers and the public to work together to find the right locations for these type of housing, which I support. And having been in the business myself, know that the land doesn't change. You got to find the right piece of land. And so I would like the full comprehensive plan to be read by everybody in Ozark, to know that that is one of our goals. And wherever we can find that land, I hope we find the right piece that we can encourage that.
thank you. Anybody else? Well, I'll make a couple of comments myself. I am concerned about the comprehensive plan as it's stated. I believe we have some issues here that everyone can recognize. And I'm uncomfortable with the what ifs and we might do this, but we might do that. I am quite concerned with that. And I would like to move this forward, and I'm gonna make a motion to approve this amendment. But each one of us will make our own votes. You'll have a second.
Second.
Megan, would you call a roll call, please?
Jeff Garrison,
Nay.
Chad Zickerus,
Nay.
Adam Oaks is absent, Adam Brown,
Nay.
Lacy Colbert. Nay. Pete Renfro.
Nay.
Alexi Pavlov,
Nay.
Trevor Branch,
Nay.
Ali Goldberg.
Nay.
Ms. Hafford. The motion is carried.
Has been, thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay. Moving on, we now just simply have a discussion to be had within the commission. 5 A, an ordinance amending the municipal code of the city of Ozark, Missouri, chapter 405 relating to zoning regulations. Cameron, if you want to
Yes,
bring us up to date there.
Staff has taken some of the comments and feedback from the last meeting and have brought some revisions back to the commission. Let me get to this. We've highlighted kind of the specific changes we made. On the first section, one of the questions that came up is in regards to some of the minimum number of lots that might require a pool. In addition to some of the commission's questions, we had some other feedback from outside the commission. Staff has revised that minimum lot size in the RSF1 to require any subdivisions of 75 lots or more than 75 lots to be required to have a pool. Anything less than 75 does not require to have a pool. So that's that first change highlighted on the page 4. And then following that, there was concerns or questions about the pool house and the minimum size of the community pool house for the subdivision. based on what we provide in the ordinance, there's a minimum calculation to determine the pool size of surface area. And then we also gave a calculation for the deck area around the pool, basically being the double the pool surface. So what staff is proposing to do, just because it's really difficult to find that fine number for what that community room needs to be, depending on the subdivision. So what we're putting in the ordinance, we're proposing that upon the design basically of the pool and the pool house, once they've kind of calculated that design of that pool to determine the occupant load of that pool, and then design the pool house to accommodate that occupant load of the pool. The pools, based on their final size, will have whether it's 1 square foot per person or 1.5 or 2 per person. There's some design standards for pools based on the proposed occupants. So once the applicant of that subdivision has determined their final pool size, then we'll be looking for the design professional when they submit the architecture plans to calculate the minimum size for the pool house. So that's what we're proposing there, determining for the pool house to make sure it might accommodate a public meeting room as such in a subdivision. Moving on to the next page, one of the other discussions was about the sidewalks and trail requirements to be constructed. Currently, our public works design standards require any residential collector road and subdivision have sidewalks on both sides. They're minimum 5 feet. And then if it's a local residential, it's sidewalk on one side. The original proposal actually required additional trail and sidewalk construction. What staff is proposing to do is actually go ahead or go back and remove that language and default back to our public works design standards and the city ordinances. And with that, there is an existing city ordinance, and I've got it pulled up here for linear park trail construction. So what staff is going to propose to bring back to the commission is a revision of this ordinance with the single family. So generally what is required when a subdivision is built along the OTO trail corridor, they are required, the developer is required to dedicate a 30-foot trail easement. Right now, the discussion has been to propose maybe along with that easement to go ahead and build that trail. So it's not just easement, but it's the construction of the trail. And then if a subdivision bordered that subdivision that had that 30-foot spine corridor, they were required to have neighborhood trails. In the current ordinance, it does require a neighborhood trail to be constructed at 6 feet in width throughout that subdivision. What staff is proposing to do on that one is to take that 6 feet, increase it to 10, and require that trail to be built as well. So that's what we're proposing. Our plan is to propose to kind of follow the linear park trail ordinance, increase some of those requirements to go ahead and get the trail built and not just an easement, and increase that 6 foot to 10 feet in those locations. And then as far as sidewalks, just refer to the public works design standards when those will occur. There are some concerns on the staff side about any additional sidewalks and trails. Generally, those are built and dedicated to the city of Ozark for ownership and maintenance. With the original proposal of those additional many, that would be somewhat of a burden on staff, or not staff, but the city to own and maintain and keep up with those. So then going back, so again, we are striking out that language and refer to those ordinances, and we'll propose that language and bring back to the commission at the next meeting. Following that, that was RSF 1, and RSF 2 would pretty much have mimicked that same language and repeat the lot count for the pool. In addition, the same for the pool house as far as the calculation requirements, and then again on the trail and sidewalk sections. So that was a proposed revisions there. Then moving on to the chart, originally staff had proposed implementing a new single family for the downtown area. In reviewing that, the intent originally wasn't to require a new single family zoning district. So I think by putting it in that chart, that might have caused some confusion. So what staff is proposing that within this area of the downtown, to actually outline some of the criteria. If you fall within this boundary area, regardless of the zoning, it'll revise the minimum lot size standards, which would be more in keeping with our existing laws today that for the most part are non-conforming in the downtown area. In that downtown area, we do define it by some verbiage in the ordinance, but we do plan to implement this map to have on file with the city clerk upon adoption of this ordinance. But it kind of gives you that geographic area in the downtown to where our minimum lot size in those areas would be 5,000 as opposed to the 8,000 in the RSF 1. So with that, be happy to answer any questions.
I have a question, Cameron.
Yes, sir.
Um, what type of data did you guys use to land on that 76 number as opposed to the 30?
Well, to be honest, the 76 was some guidance that staff got from our city administrator to use for that minimum lot number.
Is that based on historical size?
No, it was just what he had chose to feel like the most comfortable number to kind of make an equal balance between the lot owners and developer to try to
Compromise essentially. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Just reading through this, I think it's very accommodating. I think the most important aspect. Right. That we've added, I think, Cameron, is the downtown single family overlay. I think it's going to help out a ton.
Yeah.
Of future movement and change and building, and we've needed something there for a while.
Yep.
No question, Jim.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes.
On this, I had a question to it, kind of piggyback on Adam's. What is it like in surrounding areas? So what is it for Nixa and in the pool? I know Nixa seems like they have a lot more pool houses and things like that does in Ozark. Can you know that number?
From staff's research prior, and this has been a few years ago when we started work on this, we never really found a clear ordinance that had a requirement for a pool.
Okay.
It was some direction that staff received in coordination conversation with the board about requiring this.
Thanks.
Yep.
Anyone else? Comment, questions? Comments? Can you give any input on? Come back for a vote, maybe next month. possibly?
Yeah, staff's anticipation, based on some of the feedback this evening, to go ahead and bring it back next month for final action on the board to make a recommendation to the board.
Well, I would recommend everybody look through it and be comfortable with what we're doing here. I think it makes sense. I'm no wizard, but I don't see anything, nothing jumped out at me. So read and study and make sure you're comfortable for next month. It was late.
Yeah, and then just for clarification, the reason it's not actually in the packet with the ordinance, it's not to be adopted in the ordinance. We just make reference to a map on file. That's why we print it separately, so there wouldn't be any confusion. And then just to clarify on the boundary map, what staff has done is went back and looked at some of the old plats. And a lot of things in this area were platted prior to 1980. And that's really getting before the planning and zoning requirements. And that's kind of helped to dictate this boundary for us. And also in conjunction with the applications we continue to see by some of the property owners.
Thank you, Cameron, for that. Well, next item up for bids is any further commission comments on anything and everything? Or nothing? I'll go around. Hadley, anything?
I would just say we got some new stuff in town. I mean, since we met the Five Below, the Starbucks, I know, we got that new haircut place, like, let's just, make sure that we try to, I'm trying to go to the new place and I'm trying to publicly let people know too, because, we still want to get some more businesses here in town. So, I went to Five Below, it was really nice. I was, they keep it clean, and it's also some good opportunities for some of our students to have some jobs that can't handle fast food, but can handle some more retail things besides just Walmart.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Alexi? Good? Pete, you're good? Lacey? Trevor? Chad?
Just thanks, Dad, for all the work.
Thank you. Yeah, a ton of work. Adam?
Yep, thank you for showing up, being part of your little government.
Administrative. Megan, what do you got to say, dear?
I do not have.
You're good? Cameron?
Nothing else.
Nothing else. Well, as everyone see, number 8, I need a motion to. Second, and they all said.